A Sound of Freedom. Is it the greatest movie ever made? Is it a religious film? Is this the rebirth of QAnon? Why is the right hyping this? Why is the left turning this into a conspiracy theory? It's a film that was originally put together by Mexican backers through Fox. The movie was finished 5 years ago. When Disney bought Fox, they shelved the movie. Apparently, there was nothing nefarious about this decision. They had acquired so much IP that they didn't think a little indie film like this was worth the trouble of promoting. Angel Studios and the producer spent 5 years trying to get back the distribution rights. The reasons why it took so long seem primarily bureaucratic in nature. The producers and distributors got back their rights in March of this year, lacking much money for promotion. They made a bold gamble and decided to launch a viral campaign. The right and the center left embraced and carried forward this viral campaign. Oddly, the left decided to join in on the viral marketing. By making very strange incendiary claims, they probably caused people to go who would have never heard of it otherwise. The people who believed what the left outlets were saying would likely have never gone to the movie in the first place. To be honest, I probably would not have gone if the left had just ignored it. It makes me wonder just how organic the reactions from both the left and right media outlets were. If the right was intentionally boosting and the left were actually performing negative advertising to boost recognition and create tribal allegiance, then this would be outstanding marketing from both sides. If the left blundered into this without compensation, then they failed miserably. So, what is this movie about? And I won't spoil much, it's just light overviews and general descriptions. This is a story based on a true story, and I ended up listening to the actual person this is based on, Tim Ballard. It's probably a lot closer to a true story than most movies claiming to be based on a true story. Tim Ballard is a Homeland Security agent that works countering child exploitation. The first act is a solid police procedural. The agent makes a play to go after the bigger fish that leads him to make decisions about his future. The second act is the building of a sting operation in unfamiliar territory, requiring him to pair up with unlikely and perhaps colorful allies. The third act is a little slow at first, but at this point, you should be fully vested in his final goal. It's a little bit Captain Ahab at this moment, where he's adamant on getting his white whale, but it works out quite well. The acting is stellar. Everybody does their job like a champ. The two main children were really excellent in their roles. Hopefully, uh, it'll do well for them for their future. The sets and locations kept you immersed in the film. You ended up where you needed to be. The story and dialogue are well written. Uh, the cinematography really fits the mood. Talking about particular angles and tinting they decided to use for this particular movie that puts you in the mood, keeps you where you need to be. As this is meant to be a realistic story, the shootouts, chases, and fights are realistically grounded, so you don't see any wild, outlandish things occurring. Uh, it occurs pretty much like you would expect it to occur in real life. The sound is good, uh, keeps you in the movie, and the soundtrack does a lot of Latin sounds that really kind of puts you in the zone. It's not entirely dead serious. There are jokes at points, and there are high points when various bad guys meet their comeuppance. A lot of people insisted that this was a tearjerker. Is it? It does stir emotions, but I really didn't find myself fighting back tears at any point. I really felt more disgust and revulsion towards the unseemly parts than sadness. My wife brought tissues along, didn't need them. The unfortunate situation the children are in is done in what I would call a non-exploitative manner. Uh, it's done as tasteful as you can do something like that. They don't show you things, they infer it. However, this movie is definitely not for children, unless you want to give them nightmares. Some of the detractors claim that this is a religious movie. Uh, Knowing that going in, I was on the lookout for this, and there are a grand total of 3 references to God or the Bible, one of them being, quote, God's children are not for sale. I don't think that's a terribly contentious viewpoint. Other detractors are trying to tie this to conspiracy theory threads. Really, it's not at all. This movie is based on real events, some of which are backed up with footage of real world events that correlate to what they're showing in the movie. I mean, it's possible that this is an atypical operation for this type of crime, but there's no hint that there's some mysterious high level collusion. The Department of Homeland Security is actually depicted in a good light. The worst failings of Homeland is the bureaucracy that won't allow the hero to perform an operation to free purely foreign nationals. Even though the hero is on his own, the US government gives what support it can. Sorry, no QAnon here. Was this the greatest movie ever made? No, no. But it's a decent film. Will this change your life or open your eyes? Well, I suppose if you're like completely oblivious to current events, it might. Otherwise, I don't think it would. So who should see it? Well, if you're a righty culture war warrior, this is an opportunity to support something outside the mainstream. Stick it to the man, so to speak. If you're apolitical, this would be far better to watch on the big screen than streamed. It's kind of par with a season finale of your favorite cop procedural. If you want to see more good stories like this rather than woke trash, adding to this movie's bottom line will increase the odds that Hollywood or its competition will start delivering better stories. What if you're on the left? Well, then I recommend you find a fine gentleman with a hook for a hand or a peg leg to borrow this movie from. That way you can watch without supporting it, but at the same time get an opportunity to critique the news sources you follow. If what they are saying is unrealistic, and this about this QAnon conspiracy stuff, and you see it that way as well, maybe you should reconsider some of your sources. Now, the way I ultimately gauge a great movie, if it's a movie I'm going to go back and watch over and over again, that's like the top of my list. Uh, like I can, movies that occurred 10 years ago that I watch probably on an annual basis. This isn't one of them. Um, the next type is a movie I might go to see the theater twice, maybe 3 times if something's going on or I need to see more because there's so much going on. This isn't one of those movies either. The next stage would be a movie that I recommend to people, and that if a friend or relative hadn't seen it and said, "Hey, I'd like to sit and watch this," I'd sit and watch it streamed, in the family living room, just so I could experience it with them, kind of get their reactions, and then talk about it afterwards to find out what's going on. I would put it at this kind of movie. And then I have several lower grades where, I regret the hours I wasted, and this definitely is not that kind of movie. So, guess in the comment section below, have you seen the movie? What'd you think of it? If you're not going to go see the movie, tell me why you're not going to see it. Yeah, I guess that covers that part. If the YouTube algorithm brought you here and you're not a normal subscriber, please look at my titles. I go over many, many different types of topics. Surely you might find something you're interested in. Consider subscribing. If you know somebody who might find this interesting, share it with them. And if I didn't say it before, smash the like button. Actually, even if I did. All right, well, thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.